Galimera, Galispera, Galinicta, Zach Galifianakis. No matter where or who in the world you are, today we've got a slightly different sounding episode of the Highbury Squad, but you won't want to miss it, Squaddies. It's Wacky Wednesday in Squad Central, so let's get stuck in.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.
Welcome to the Highbury Squad. Do not adjust your YouTube. This is Magic Mike, aka B-Tech Sophie, standing in as guest host for our beloved and voice-affected Sophie Nicolaou tonight, whose voice has had better days. Have no fear, Sophie will be back soon. You can kind of see that she's here now, but instead of canceling the show, her dedication to Squaddies is unmatched and the show must go on. But the show can't go on without an introduction to the man with the plan, the super one, the giver of nicknames, a man who saved both multiple podcasts and multiple Premier League teams from relegation. It's Super Kevin Campbell.
Cheers, Magic Mike. Thank you for fitting in and being the B-Tech Sophie. Got to say hi to the other guests, obviously Tom and Potsy, and to you, Squaddies. And let's get into it because we've got plenty to cover at ease, Squaddies.
At ease indeed. And as Kevin says, we are joined today at Squad Central by two incredible friends of the show. You know them, you love them, at least part of the time. We'll start with journalist and podcast extraordinaire, football writer for Football.London, and the man behind the Gooner Talk TV, the number one football podcast that takes place at 8 o'clock in the morning. And now, can I call you Tom Canton, or since I'm being B-Tech Sophie, do I have to say Canton?
You can call me whatever you like within reason, mate. I don't mind.
I mean, I usually do, but you know, I'm trying to be grown up here. So, how you been? What's up?
Yeah, good. It's just too warm here at the moment. It's too warm, and I have to close the window because I've got one of the. You know when you're younger and like the grassy areas in closes that have those signs that say no ball games, right? And I remember used to look at those and think, what sad old bastard has put up a sign that says no ball games? I'm now the sad old bastard that wants a no ball game sign outside because the kids won't stop playing and shouting and screaming. So
is it warmer or cooler than it was at your wedding when people were playing rounders?
Hey, look, that was great. It was great. And it was because it was alcohol induced and I just got married. So it was fine. You know,
that's true. And we're gonna introduce our second guest and then talk about our great our great sponsor. We're also joined, you know him, you love him. He's my fourth favorite person in the Potts family. He's the host of the football's 12th man channel. It's Dan Potts. How's the wife? How's he doing?
Man, yeah, everyone's great, man. Family's great. I'm great. I'm also warm. I don't really care for people who play in ball games. I don't know what that is, Tom. Maybe you're just getting old, bro. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's what it is. But listen, I'm all for kids getting into footy. But yeah, maybe don't smash it against my wall. Then I might turn into Tom. But it's all good, man. And do you know what? This is a much uglier version of Sophie. I can't lie. What is happening here, man? Come on. What's going on?
At this stage in life, you could only do so much with what you're given. I mean, you know, I'm just trying to make the most of it. And as we showed before, the Highbury Squad is powered by Zenith Coins. If you haven't heard of Zenith Coins, you clearly haven't been watching this podcast. And don't say that Sophie never did anything for you guys. I mean, that would be ridiculous. You can get 15% off of your purchase at Zenith Coins by using the promo code HS15. And we'll also be talking later in the podcast about how you can win some of these beauties, but we'll save that for the end. So, Super Kev, you were there at the game. We want to hear about your first before the game. We want to hear about your views of the season, kind of get us caught up on where we stand as a fan base at the first international break.
Well, I've got to say, before the game, met up with Tom, met up with the Astro Super Sport guys who I was doing pitch side with. Chris Eagles was with us. I think it was a bit intrigued. Met up with Harry Symeou as well and some of the guys in the media room. And we were just discussing, you know, what team was going to play first off, and what actual team Manchester United were gonna field, because I think it was gonna be that would have been the interesting one. United's record ain't great. We saw the Arsenal team. Obviously, no Thomas Partey. Declan Rice as the number 6. It's going to be interesting, because normally we do miss Thomas Partey, don't we? But I thought Arsenal started pretty well on Sunday. Without being spectacular, I thought we started pretty well. Again, I would say this: we haven't been outstanding. We've been solid. We've been okay, but we keep getting caught at home. And better defending. Manchester United don't score that goal, but Man United weathered the storm a little bit, and obviously took the obligatory 1-0 lead up from Marcus Rashford. But I thought Arsenal done really well to get back in the game. Good move. Odegaard scores. Second half, up until the Garnacho incident, I mean, we had enough chances to bury the game. I thought the game was there for us for the taking. Obviously, got a penalty taken away from us by the referee, who I thought had a pretty poor game. Then, we missed some big chances. Garnacho's opportunity, obviously, he goes through. He was offside, which I love Ten Hag being salty about. I must admit, I do love that. And I think after that, it actually made the extra time a whole different game, because we went for it, they went for it, and our £105 million man came up trumps. And you know what? I don't think I've heard the Emirates that loud ever.
We keep hearing that.
I know, but I think because it was Declan Rice, and there was a bit of relief there, us taking the lead so late. I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get that from what Tom and Dan Potsy thought after. But for me, that was a special moment at the Emirates. We've been getting a couple of special moments over the last couple of years. Reece Nelson's goal last season was a special moment. This was another special moment. And then, obviously, the way it finished, Vieira, perfect ball to Jesus. Jesus with the chop, and I think Dalot slid all the way to Manchester, didn't he? He slid.
He's still going.
And the way he stuck it away as well. I don't know about you guys, I've probably watched it about 100, 200 times. I just keep watching it because the feel-good factor around the club, seeing the players, everybody joining in, and the way Arsenal won that game was special. So
yeah, we're going to talk about the fan standpoint.
But listen, again, we could pick players out. I said to Stadium Master, I'm going to watch Kai Havertz. He's done some good things. He's done some bad things. He's having a little bit of a confidence crisis. But do you know what? We're still not firing on all cylinders, and it's going to take a bit of time. Yeah, there's going to be times where he doesn't play now, because I'm sure Carabao Cup, and you've got hungry players on the side. But do you know what? 10 points out of 12, considering how we were last week against Fulham, I'll take that.
Yeah, not a bad start to the season at all. And then at the end of the game, we had a visit that you had. We're trying to put the picture up here, but a visit with one of our top boys. Tell us a little bit about who you spoke to after the game.
Yeah, spoke to Rambo after the game. Asked him some questions about the dressing room, really. Just how he and the team feel that they're doing. How Declan Rice was after the game, how pleased were the boys for him, etc. Obviously, they were ecstatic. They said the amount of work that Declan Rice gets through is immense. But to top it off with a goal, I think, is the icing and the cherry. He said that obviously they don't want to fall too far behind City. They know it's going to be a tussle, but everybody's all bought in. Everybody's looking to try it, obviously, after the international break, to get straight back on the horse when they get back. And it's another potential banana skin at Goodison Park, isn't it? I think the last two performances at Goodison Park, have stunk the place out. So, they've really got to get back on the horse and get going.
Yeah. Now, Tom, your take from the press box. You're watching it outside block, what, 31, 32, where there's meant to be absolutely no celebrating, right? I mean, we haven't seen pictures of you celebrating or anything like that on the internet that have been
That was just a
spread.
warm up, Mike.
That's when I saw that Rice was fit.
Tom, so tell me what your thoughts of the game. How did how it went from your perspective? What other people in press row did at the in the 96th minute. I mean, I want to hear. Were you the only one?
I love looking around in those moments at the really professional ones that are just there typing away, like nothing's just happened. So I'm looking around like, yeah, I can tell which ones are Arsenal fans and which ones are, in these moments. To be fair, I remember I was chatting to Sam Dean the other day about the Bournemouth game because obviously, he's not an Arsenal fan. He covers a lot of Arsenal stuff, and I asked him in those moments, like, how do you find it when that kind of chaotic moment happens? Because from my perspective, I lose all sense of purpose. And, it's whilst I am trying to stay as professional as I can, doing the minute by minute and stuff like that. He just said he stood up with his mouth open for the Nelson goal. So I imagine Sam was there the other day. He would have been doing something similar because it was just a mouth open wide, stunned, as you saw with that photo, I just couldn't quite believe what we witnessed again. Like, it's so often this is happening now. Like Arsenal. Have I got an issue with the microphone and you're not telling me? Yeah, I love that you don't tell me.
I didn't. I'm trying my best not to interrupt people.
I kind of did in the private chat, but you obviously haven't looked. But it's calm.
Is it working now? Is that fine?
Yeah, there we go. That's better. That's better.
Yeah, I love that. You're just sitting there smiling away.
It's funny. It's funny.
Is there a chipmunk setting, by the way, that you just keep forgetting to turn off, or what is it?
Yeah, well, it's working now, so that's what matters. But
for me, it's clearly the most
we thought we found a
fix
fix
in
for it this
4
morning.
years.
Clearly, that fix is not a fix.
So I think I can't lie.
But I think that when it comes down to what we're coming to expect from this Arsenal team, it's just absolutely chaotic moments at any opportunity possible, and we got that yesterday. Or rather Sunday. I feel like it's been a day since that. I've been riding the wave of positivity since the result, but it was, and it could have gone very, very differently. If Garnacho is a second, like less than a second earlier, it ends in a completely different result. But the difference between the results would have been if Man United had won this game, it wouldn't have been deserved. And if Arsenal win the game, it's utterly and entirely deserved because there was only one team that came to play football on that day, that came to play to win the game, and that was us. If I was in that press conference, I'm not. I go down to the mix zone after the game's on it in the presser, and I had a chance to ask Erik ten Hag a question. I would have asked, is that the performance that you want from your Manchester United team? Is that what Manchester United is now? Comes to an away game, stinks the place out, tries to hit you on the counter. Because that's not what I remember Manchester United being back in the day. Manchester United are a team that's supposed to go to grounds and try and dominate, play football, but it wasn't that. It was like going up against a team that have got a low block and hitting you on the counter. Like you're going up against a team that are fighting relegation. That's how it felt to me on the day. And yes, they've got better players than those teams that are fighting for relegation that can hit you on the break with better, threat. But I just felt like it felt like a matter of time until Arsenal scored and got back in the game and eventually won. Like, it was a bit like when we went to Anfield and gradually you felt as though Liverpool were eventually going to get that goal to equalise, and they did. It felt like that with us, and eventually, thank goodness, we're the ones that got the result, because had it gone the other way, it would have been, meltdown central.
Tom, can I just add? I think Ten Hag was influenced by their poor away record against the big, what is it, big 6 or 8? In 11 games, Manchester United Football Club have got 1 point out of a possible 33. So I listen, you could ask him that question, but if that was us, you've got to try and stay in the game to start with, haven't you? You can't go gung-ho. If he goes gung-ho against us, we blow him away. So that's the best way they could try and get something. So, and they deserve nothing, Tom. You're right. They deserve nothing. But it could have gone pear-shaped for us if that Garnacho goal would have stood. But Man United haven't been the same team for a while, and they don't deserve anything unless they have to play a lot better than that.
Yeah, I don't understand the people on the Manchester United or neutral side who are saying that they deserved a draw, much less anything else out of that game. I mean, they were that's the worst Manchester United team I've seen in 20 plus years. Wow. Well, I guess if it's 20 plus years, it would have to be a lot longer than 20 years. I mean, they're horrendous right now. Dan, the view from the North Bank. Let me see if I can play a video here, and then I'll ask you for your personal views of those moments. I mean, now I uploaded the wrong video. I had a different edit that didn't have the top and bottom of my phone on there, but that's just me. You get the point. You were what, 6, 7, 8 rows kind of behind that and off to the side?
Yeah, man, that was literally where I was, a little bit further around to the right. It was insane ending, man. Insane ending. And listen, boys, I honestly, truly believe it when I say this. I hate this club as much as I do Spurs. And that's a lot, right?
You're talking about United,
when you
right?
get a last minute winner against any team, it's amazing, right? We saw it last season against teams like Villa.
I thought he was saying
I can believe it.
I hate this club, man. I can't stand them. I think they're the most embarrassing club at the moment. They're in the mud.
Someone's going to clip that and think and try to say that you were talking about Arsenal.
Yeah, they will. Listen, let them do that, man. I'm talking about Manchester United right now because, listen, for me, real talk, Spurs are rivals geographically, but they're not rivals, are they? Yeah, they live next door to us and they get cocky, but they win nada, right? But this team are our rivals for me because for the last 30 years that I've been watching football, this team have been in proper trophies, proper title races, taking them off of us. I remember walking home from Highbury in morning when I was a youngster because we come second to these guys. I hate them. I'm sorry, Man United fans. I know a lot of you that I get on well with, but I can't stand them. So forgive me for getting a little bit OTT when we beat you in the last minute, right? It's just the way it is. Now, we can sit there and start talking about how poor we were in parts of the game if we want and how poor they are. For me, I'm really happy and the emotion got to me and I went nuts at the end, right? That's just what happens when you beat teams like this in the last minute. There's some serious problems and concerns that I have still moving forward with Arsenal. But let's just talk about them for a minute because they are in the mud. When you're bringing on Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans in the last few minutes of the game, you are in serious doo-doo. Now, I looked at Dalot. I think he's taken up ice skating and tobogganing now because I looked at him and rumour has it he's still sliding towards Manchester, man. That guy is, I mean, that was embarrassing, wasn't it? Let's be real. It's probably my favourite Gabriel Jesus goal, if I'm honest with you. I can't think of many I've enjoyed more than that one. It was fantastic. And Manchester United, I know a lot of their fans, they're very cocky. Ten Hag's here. We've now got a process in place. Their process already looks absolutely in a shambles as far as I'm concerned because I don't see any of their team and I see their fans putting combined 11s together and trying to put Bruno in ahead of Odegaard. They're trying to cram Rashford in up top because Martinelli and Saka might take their place. They're trying to put Lissandro in instead of Gabriel. And Nana, who hasn't kicked a ball for Man United, by the way, hardly, is now better than Ramsdale all of a sudden. And I looked at their team and I thought they're smashing the ball up to Rashford and hoping for the best. There's literally nothing else I saw from that team whatsoever. I wouldn't take any of their players, man. And I can't even lie to you. I think Casemiro and Rashford might be the two that I would consider putting into an 11. But other than that, I'm having all the Arsenal players in there. So I thought Manchester United were disappointing. Now, I'm not going to come on here and start saying that Arsenal were electric and that we look like we absolute mustard because there were some serious concerns for me. We're still leaking goals. I think Kev spoke about that. We still didn't look convincing in terms of, wow, we were going to easily brush past them 4-5-0. But I do think that we created the better of the chances. I thought Havertz missed the sitter. I thought Saka missed the sitter. I thought we should have done better with both of those. And for me, I looked at both teams and thought that one of them actually tried to play football. The other one smashed it up to Rashford and hoped for the best. I think the only positives for Manchester United were that they didn't get battered more from us and that Højlund actually looked all right when he came on. But the one that was actually the most embarrassing for me was their manager coming out trying to think everything that he could about Johnny Evans pulling Gabriel's shirt like this and what he wants a penalty. Like, what's going on? Like, this is a madness thing for me. Like, he wants a foul. Come on, man. It's mad. So I thought that we deserved the win. If there was a team that I think a neutral had to call, it would have been Arsenal. And Kev said he doesn't want to get into players, but I do want to get into one player. And the player's name is Declan Rice. Because for me, 4 games now, he's been our best player, man. This guy already I love, man. I can't even lie to you, boys.
Yeah, we will get into Declan. In fact, we're going to get into him in just a second. But quick check on where we are as a season overall at the first international break. You know, I hate this September, October, November recurring national. But you can't get any momentum going. But clearly not playing our best. A lot of potential issues that hopefully will be worked out. Certain players, certain systems, certain formations. 10 points out of 12, no losses after 4 games. Are we rounding into form, or are we starting to see some signs of concern, Kev?
Well, look, there's always going to be concerns when you're not playing really well. We've seen this team play really well last season and fall at the end. Me personally, I don't want us to be playing really well until it really matters. Against the big teams, we need to obviously win games. We need to keep the momentum going. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time because we've got some new players in and the manager's tinkering with the system now and again, that it's going to take a little bit of time. But I want us to start playing well after Christmas. I want us to get the necessary wins, win enough games now. Yeah, let's have a little bit of worries. Let's get the defense right, especially at home. If we can get the defense right, Magic, I will be happy because I think we get the defense right, we will beat most teams.
Yeah, and Tom, are we? Is there something to take away where last season we came out of the gates playing our best football and it showed in the table, and then when we finally kind of got tired or suffered injuries or, to be clear, lack of run-in experience in a title run. We showed our youth and inexperience and our lack of depth. Would you rather see a season where maybe you're winning some games while not playing our best and feel as though you still have more levels to go to, or are you concerned by what you're seeing so far that it's not sustainable to keep winning?
Has there been a game so far this season we've not deserved to win?
Your mic.
So Dan, same question, and then we'll go back to Tom.
No, go on, Tom. Go on. You can go again.
Try
man.
again,
go on,
Tom.
go on, go on.
You're working now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did it go all like fuzzy or was it a chipmunky?
It's a Dalek, man. It's a Dalek.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. My laptop's had an absolute nightmare.
It's them kids outside, Tom.
Yeah, I thought it was probably they're messing with it. It's robot guard is what it is. No, I think, as I say before I was rudely interrupted by technology, is there a game so far this season that we have not deserved to win? So the answer is no. We deserve to win every single game we play. We deserve to beat Forest. We deserve to beat Palace. We deserve to beat Fulham. We deserve to beat Man United. You know, has it been perfect? No, it's not been perfect. There's things I want to see improved. But to be honest, the fact that we are still deserving to win every single game that we're playing, and yet we've got levels to go, is exciting more than anything else for me. I think that there are statistical evidence that we're improving, even under that weird system that Arteta's tried that not everyone agrees with. Statistically, we're up in loads of different metrics. And ultimately, I think we're on a solid pathway. I think last season, obviously, we peaked really early. We're blowing teams away at the start of the season and then faded in the second half of the season. I like the fact that there's some experimentation going on, but we're deserving to win. We're picking up the points. We're only 2 behind City. I think we're only behind City in terms of XG against. All of the metrics are looking really positive for us. Look, don't get me wrong. If we'd have lost this game against United, it would have been panic stations. But it would have been undeservedly so because, as I say, I think we've deserved to win all those games.
That's what I was most upset about in the 93rd, 94th minute was I really felt like we completely wiped them off of the park, but we were not going to end up with the points. And it was going to be 2 weeks of hearing the narrative and the complaining. And, I'm not saying it's unjustified, but it just, I didn't want that 2 weeks. I wanted this 2 weeks. Yeah. So
yeah, I think also that there's something to be said regarding the fact of kind of. I think people were frustrated when we drew against Fulham because it was like we won our first 5 games last season and then lost against Man United. And obviously that meant that comparatively after 3 games, we weren't in the same place. If we win against Everton away and we beat Spurs, we then have more points than we did last season after 6 games.
Yeah.
So, and they're 2 winnable, in my opinion, games we should win. And I'll be disappointed if we don't beat Everton, even though we've got a terrible record there. We should be disappointed if we don't win that game because Everton aren't that great this season. No offense, Kev, sorry. But they're not that great.
It's true.
It's
true.
I think
now you're going to say
off.
something about Trabzonspor as well. I mean, come on.
I'm going to start bashing all the teams. But no, I think we should win that game and be disappointed if we didn't. And beating Spurs is a formality for us at the Emirates these last few years. It's just part of that record we've got. And we will then be better off than we were last season. So no, it's not as bad as what maybe people thought at the beginning of the campaign. And we deserve to be where we are.
After the podcast, I think you need to send the microphone up to Manchester to Kevin so he can do this to it. and
so I can't tell you how frustrating it is.
I know
so
the
out
kind
of your control.
I know the perfectionist that you are, and yeah. So, but don't worry about it. People, any show that I'm hosting, people don't expect perfection, although they should on the Highbury Squad. In case you weren't here at the beginning, I am standing in for Sophie, who is backstage and is a little voice impaired this evening. She'll be back. There's no concerns. I didn't buy the channel from her and take it over. So you'll be seeing plenty of Sophie over the coming time. And we've got 461 in live chat. I cannot see the number of likes, but I'm guessing it's not 230.
Like button, people. Come on.
We need to see 230, or there's going to be
slot the like button. Tammy,
slot it,
let
caress
us know.
it. If you love Tom's microphone, if you hate Tom's microphone, hit the like button. And Dan, just a quick round the block before we get into Declan Rice. Your view on the start to the season. Should it be panic stations? Should we be overly focused on the things that aren't going right, or should we just kind of feel like a car that an F1 car that's just changed its tires and getting up to full speed? I'm trying to impress Tom here with my knowledge.
Well, listen, you impress me because I love analogies that include Formula One because I'm a big Formula One fan.
Me too.
I love that. Huge. Listen, we have not been at our best. I've not been impressed because I think I've been more disappointed with the fact that we haven't really seen the best 11 that we all wanted to see. Now, some of that's come down to injury in terms of Timber and now Partey. I think what everybody was more frustrated about was that we haven't seen Partey, Rice and Ødegaard in that midfield yet, which I think everybody was really excited to see. It looks to me as if Kai Havertz is his guy and he's trying to stick with him to make it work. And I just hope he doesn't fall on that sword because for me, it needs to be looked at more fairly. If things aren't going well for Kai Havertz, then maybe use him as a sub and try and change it up. That's the only big concern for me. I think we've seen Gabriel coming in and no one's really mentioned Gabriel at all, if I'm honest, on the podcast I've been. I thought he was an absolute monster. I thought he was superb at the weekend. And I'm a huge fan of him anyway. I love the partnership between these two. I think Gabriel and Saliba complement each other. And I want to see that moving forward now. I understand where perhaps Arteta was coming from with Zinchenko and Jesus being out, that perhaps he's moved it into a back three and he thought that Gabriel wasn't as comfortable on the ball. But as soon as Zinchenko comes back into it, we've seen Gabriel come in. Now, we won't ever know whether that's because Partey's out or not now, but actually that's made the decision easier for him. And I thought we were a lot more fluid, to be honest with you. I didn't think we were poor or like really a shambles, if I'm honest, against the other teams, but it just didn't look right. I wasn't happy about it. Something was really frustrating me about the games at Forest, Fulham and Palace. So I really hope that we revert back to what we know worked last season. And that's really exciting for me to see what we've got with Jesus back up top, with Zinchenko back at that left back. I mean, I say left back. He was actually playing at right back, centre midfield, centre back and left back for most of the game against Man United. This guy is ridiculously good, man. On the ball, like, wow, just so good. So that does excite me moving forward. And I hope that we don't have any more injuries, touch wood, in the international break and that we start to see the best of some of the guys that we looked at last season. I'm not saying they've had bad games, but I think Saka, Martinelli and Ødegaard in some of the games people have questioned about, are they at their best? I think the answer is probably no, not yet. But trust me, I have faith in these three kids, man. I think they're top quality. All of them scored 15 goals last season, and I want to see them at their best when we come back from the international break, because we've got some tough fixtures, Mike. You know, we've got Everton, we've got City, we've got Chelsea. Bournemouth away is never a given 3 points. So we're going to have to be at our best, and I've got faith that we will be. I think the only time I've ever not been bothered about Thomas Partey being injured is this season, because we got Declan Rice. Beforehand, it'd have been like absolute meltdowns before the game. Oh my God, where's Partey? How long's he out for? When's he coming back? Now we've got Rice. No one is really up in arms about it as such. I obviously want Thomas Partey fit, don't get me wrong, but I feel like now we've got Rice, it can be a little bit less hassle. So we dropped 2 points. It's frustrating how we did it, because I felt like we should have beaten Fulham, and I don't think the system worked for us, but it's not a shambles by any means.
Are you saying that you feel better now with Declan Rice coming in when Partey's hurt than Sambi Lokonga on the single pivot against Brighton?
Listen, I
thought you knew football. Come on.
I'm a huge fan of Declan Rice. Big up Sambi Lokonga. I hope you do well at Luton, but I'm having Declan Rice any day, man.
So let's talk about him. Now, there's only 2 of us on this podcast that are old enough to remember when this song came out all them years ago. I could safely assume that neither Kev or I expected it to represent so much positivity and love at the Emirates, although we wouldn't have known about the Emirates at the time. But 33 years later, in Arsenal's fortress, game after game. So, I mean, this man right here is, I keep saying he's worth the 170 million we paid for him and Havertz together, all by himself. But I mean, the fans have taken to him. It's clear that he's taken to everything and everyone in and around our club. Kevin, what's the ceiling for this guy? Do you see a nailed-on position for him settling down eventually, or is it going to take another addition in January or over the summer to really make that happen, or do we need to have him do that?
Magic, I'm going to be really honest with you. I truly think Declan Rice is only working at the moment to about 60-65% capacity of his talent. I really do.
That's
and
scary.
I say that because in games you're starting to see him try things where he drives and he's trying to play 1-2s and pass balls in and around the edge of the opponent's box. And sometimes it comes off and sometimes it doesn't. But he's learning how to play in this system. It's only 4 games, and he's been immense in all 4 games. Now, you imagine when he's got 24 games under his belt, what it's going to be like. Because I just think his ceiling is massive. I'll be brutally honest with you. I truly think when Thomas Partey's fit and you could get him and Thomas Partey as a pivot, I think we're going to see the best of these guys in the Champions League. Champions League, I think, is going to be where these guys earn their bread, because they're going to need to protect the back 4 in the Champions League at times, but also we're going to need legs for somebody to break forward, and that's got to be Declan Rice, and that's the other part of his talent that he can do, which we're going to see a bit further down the line, Magic.
Yeah, Tom, Declan Rice. I mean, we've seen him. You know, we as Arsenal fans sometimes rush to judgment on players, new signings. We rush to judgment on the critical side. We rush to judgment on the great side. I mean, Tomiyasu came in when we first learned about him and won all those headers, and he was the best thing since sliced bread, and he is great. But we tend to jump to conclusions. Declan Rice has basically steadily trying to come in, starting in DC, New York, LA, and then the Wembley, and then game after game after game, he's kind of built his play and showed he's more comfortable. I mean, he's another type of player. He's not a confidence player, and if he is, he just doesn't lack for confidence. What do you see his ceiling at Arsenal? I mean, could he be? I don't want to rush to judgment after 4 Premier League games, but I mean, what is his ceiling in your opinion?
I mean, I'd said the guy was world class, prior to it. Also, is my mic okay?
Yes.
Smiling now. Yeah. It has me disconcerted.
If we don't go like this, like right when you start talking, then
please do.
Good.
That's the symbol, just the West Ham symbol, clearly. But yeah, no, I thought the guy was world class. I got battered for saying that. I was told, Thomas Partey is clear, he's levels above this guy. And I'm like, look, just because you like one player doesn't mean that, another cannot be really good as well. And I ultimately do think that Rice is going to take us to another level. I think he is going to evolve this midfield to another dimension, really. And I think that if we find the right balance, if Kai Havertz, who I'm sure we'll talk about, gets to, can find his confidence in that three, we know Ødegaard and what he's about. He's absolutely fantastic. So that midfield three with Rice as an anchor, and I think as an anchor he can really work. I know a lot of people want to see him be more free and actually given time in the left centre mid position, but I do think that maybe having him anchor the midfield is going to be his best role for us. And having that ability to be so athletic, and his recoveries are really good. He's so progressive. He adds to the attack as well from a deeper position in the team. I think he can anchor that midfield really, really well. So his ceiling, it's anything he wants it to be, mate.
And I mean, when it comes to leadership, we know who the captain of this team is, and there's no questioning that he is the rightful captain of Arsenal Football Club, Martin Ødegaard. But I mean, you've added another captain, you've added another leader who, unlike other captains of other teams like Anderlecht and other teams that we've brought in, who don't necessarily make their mark in leadership on the team right away. Dan, I mean, what does it do to this team? What does it do to the players who are looking around for potential leadership, who want to know that, this new expensive big money player that's come in to join their ranks is one of them?
Well, listen, everything that's impressed me about Declan Rice on the pitch is literally followed up by him off the pitch. I think the way he comes across, what he's saying, he come across really well, in my opinion, with the pundits on Sky talking about this is what he always looked at, these sort of games, and thought, you could see he was looking there thinking, this is what I want one day. And when he was walking around, he's already in love with the crowd. I think what he's done already is connect with the fan base straight away. And I think his leadership qualities, it's been interesting for me actually to see that Eddie and Jesus have got the captain's armband ahead of him when Ødegaard's not been there. Because for me, he'd be putting it straight on his arm if Ødegaard's not there, because already I can see what he's like around the place. And for me, I think we've got an unbelievably good player here, And do you know what's great about this? People who watch me and listen to me will know. On my channel, Dan Lawless is crying about this. He's crying about this. He won't admit that he's crying about it, but he's still crying about it, that we've bought Declan Rice from West Ham. You've made us better. West Ham are really happy he's gone because we're now fourth in the league, whatever the hell they are. And honestly, they're crying. They can't stand the fact he's gone over to Arsenal. He won't go Arsenal. We'll go to Manchester City. They were all crying. Well, he's come to Arsenal, and not only has he come to the Arsenal, he's actually been our best player, in my opinion, in the first 4 games. He, for me, can play 6 or 8 and can do it to a very high standard. And I think this is a really good signing. I know a lot of people will say it's a hell of a lot of money, and some neutral fan bases, Spurs, were saying that we had our pants pulled down and all this rubbish. I would take that. I would spend 105 million on Declan Rice again. Now, I've already in 4 games, what I've seen is only going to get better. At 24 years old, I don't know many midfielders that can play in both positions to that level of standard. And I think this is going to be a great signing. And do you know what? It's funny. I'm not one to name drop, but I sound like Lee Judges here. Me and Judges were coming back from the Community Shield, and we got on the train, and we had Darren Moore and we had Chris Powell with us. And Chris said to me, Declan Rice is going to be the closest you've had to Vieira in years. And I said, whoa, calm down. He hasn't kicked a ball yet. And he just said, look, man, I'm not really a fan of Arsenal, but I can see already that is the closest you'll have to Vieira. Exactly. So I've got to trust people like that, because he knows his football. And both of them, Kev, they're good lads. But I couldn't believe when he said that. I thought, wow, for you to say that, why would he say that? He didn't know. He could have just said, I hope he's a disaster for you. But he was true. He's a football man. He said to me, I think that will be the closest you get to a Vieira replacement. Probably won't hit the levels of Vieira, right? And I saw Jamie Carragher on Monday Night Football comparing him to Keenan Vieira. I personally understood why he did that. A lot of people were laughing. Oh my God, no, he's comparing them because of the type of player, not because they're as good as them already. He's not going to compare him to Gerrard or Lampard or De Bruyne, is he? Because they're not that type of. He's not that type of midfielder. For me, I totally got why he was comparing him to that, man. So I'm excited about Declan Rice. I can't lie, man. I love it.
Dan, let's add to that. Let's add to that. A lot of United fans say Casemiro is one of the best in the league. There was only one midfielder out there on Sunday. It was only Declan Rice. He put tackles in. He bossed that whole midfield himself. Well, Casemiro, I didn't see him. So that tells you, doesn't it? That tells you
Mate.
this guy's for real, and he's only 4 games in.
And Bruno, how poor was Bruno, Kev? Declan Rice just destroyed him. He absolutely, like,
He was
honestly,
playing, to be honest, mate.
he was awful.
Didn't know he
Man.
was playing.
This player, I tell you, one of the most hated players for me in this league. I was so glad to see him fail. I can't stand this guy. Moaning, rolling around again, flinging his arms about. This is a captain for them. That's where they're going wrong as well, by the way. They're putting armbands on people like that. Like, honestly, man, he was awful. And I was so glad to see it, man. I can't stand this guy.
Yeah, and Fergus in the chat asked how long until Declan Rice is captain. I think the answer to that is however long plus 1 day Odegaard decides to play for the Arsenal.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to replace Martin Odegaard with. I mean, our problem has been we have had to elect a captain when we've had no captains. It's a better problem to have 5 captains and only be able to have 1, and that's what we have finally at the Arsenal right now. And I'll go a little further back than Patrick Vieira, and maybe a little bit more about personality and leadership and love for the club, the Arsenal way. I never thought I'd see another player play for Arsenal who made me feel like David Rocastle did, Kev. And there's 2 right now in Bukayo Saka, and I'm seeing signs of it in Declan Rice, although he's new to the club. Who I feel like 10 years from now we could be seeing, and celebrating a career where they just meant as much to the club and the club meant as much to them as it did for Rocky. And I don't say that lightly. If anyone knows how I feel about him and his family, I don't say that lightly, and it's my hope for these players. Is that unrealistic to say? I mean, I
think, Mike, Mike. The thing for all Arsenal fans is, for years we never had a connection with the team fully. We couldn't relate to the players. Now you can relate to so many of the players because so many of the players are likable. Bringing Declan Rice in virtually from day one, it's like he's just connected with the fan base. He's putting in performances like that against Manchester United. These are the big games that Arsenal want to win. He doesn't need the armband. And by the way, after his goal, I don't know if you actually saw what he was doing on the pitch. After his goal, he was happy. And then he went into captain mode. He was talking to the back 4 and he's giving them that because it happened against Fulham, didn't it? We got ourselves back into winning mode, and then we went and conceded. So he's telling them, make sure we don't concede again. Let's get our mind on the job. I think it's important. We're going to start seeing Emile Smith-Rowe start to get minutes now. We've got Carabao Cup football coming up, Champions League football coming as well. So I think we're going to start to see the Trossards and all that coming up. There are a lot of likable players at Arsenal, and I think it's brilliant. The fan base needed it. They really needed this connection with the team.
And the leadership when it comes to be those April and May games that we would like to forget from last season. That's where it's going to matter the most. Another really likable player who I think we kind of forgot about after his torrid start to last season, his injury, and then not really seeing the best out of him after that, is this man right here. And, how soon some have forgotten what Pete Gabriel Jesus is capable of. And, the skill is sublime. He's breaking ankles. He's ending careers. I can't get enough of that Diogo Dalot just sliding into the outer areas of the universe video. I absolutely love that. But Tom, is Gabby Jesus rounding into his best? And how nervous are you for the next 2 weeks with him jetting off to Brazil to play Bolivia and Peru?
Yeah, I think so. It was. Yeah, I spoke to him after the game, and he was talking. I asked him about kind of how he felt after the game, and he went immediately into his injury recovery and started talking about, the journey that he'd been on, how he initially felt something in his knee after going on holiday, and it's clearly affected him. It's clearly a big frustration for him. And then I asked him about how, when we spoke to Eddie Nketiah after the Monaco game, all the reporters were asking, how do you feel about stepping into Jesus' shoes? How do you feel about being, the main guy again? And it was a frustration, I think, for Eddie, because the conversation he needed to change. And I think he has, to some degree, changed that conversation. And now the conversation is, does Jesus start straight away? Because Eddie's scoring 2 goals in 4 games and winning a penalty in another one, and then coming on and playing against Man. I thought he was brilliant despite not scoring against Man United. I thought he was really, really good.
What was it? I not to interrupt. Well, Sorry to interrupt, but
the evidence is against you, mate.
the I wasn't sure after Jesus's recovery whether he had enough minutes in him to start that game, and whether it was tactical to start Eddie, or if it was just something to keep Gabby, part of his kind of trajectory back to being able to play 70, 75 minutes as a starter. Is he still kind of on a limited minutes thing to where Nketiah starting shouldn't really be taken as a sign that Gabby's got to fight his way back into the starting 11 over Eddie?
If he plays and he starts for Brazil, for instance, in either of those two games, the answer will be no. He will be expected to come back after the international break and play. Of course, they'll be, cautious about how many minutes he's getting, and I suppose they'll gradually build it up. But whilst they've got Eddie playing in the form that he is, they don't need to worry about, necessarily rushing Jesus back into the fold. They'll want to give him those opportunities to build back. He'll probably start the game against PSV in the Champions League. He'll probably start the game, which is a great asset to us. And Eddie will probably continue to start in the league against Everton when we come back after the break. But I think what Jesus has to focus on this season, obviously, is that period of games he had last year. I think it was 12 games he had without scoring. He can't afford really to have another run like that again. He is the Arsenal number 9. He is the guy with the shirt, and if he's starting, he is gonna.
Yeah, it's not the microphone. It's now the internet. Tom having a mare. So his goal, Dan. We've talked about the view from the North Bank. Of the Rice goal. Gabby Jesus scores, rounds off, just absolutely destroys Diogo. It's not Diego, it's Diogo Dalot. And again, it's limbs, as Arsenal's Twitter account said in the North Bank. But tell us your thought about Gabby Jesus. Is he going to have the impact on this team for the next 34 Premier League games that he had in the first 8 or 9 last season before he went on injured?
Yeah, man, if this guy stays fit, I think we're in for a treat. And it's funny, Mike, because they said a lot of people asked me the start of this season, who do you think will be the surprise? Who do you think will be the most improved player, etc.? And a lot of people laughed at me because I mentioned Gabriel Jesus, and it wasn't a fact about him improving because I think he's a top player. It was about him staying fit, because I honestly believe if he can get 10 goals where he's got misses 4 months of a season, then he should be reaching 15 if he's fit. And I do believe that. And a lot of people will say that Eddie Nketiah deserves to be in this side. And you know what? Eddie's actually probably been one of our most promising attacking players of late. And I think he deserves his flowers. I don't always think he gets the credit that perhaps he deserves, Eddie. But I will say this. Jesus stays fit. He's definitely 100% playing, because we are a better side with Jesus in it. And I think that what you will see with Saka and Martinelli either side of him is their game step up to that level as well. And I think that people are dying and crying to see the Arsenal of old, and that did consist of Jesus, Saka, Martinelli. I think we all want to see Partey, Rice and Odegaard, and we know what our back five is. I do think that Gabriel Jesus is probably one of the most hardest working players, and I do think that when you bring on a player of his level, whether it be on the right, left or through the middle, he'll give you 110% as well. So I'm really excited to see him this season. I just cannot see him. I really cannot see him get injured again, man. And if I see that happen, I'm going to be extremely disappointed, because I think we're a better side with him in the side. I really do.
Outstanding. And the things he does beyond just scoring and assisting. And while we need him to score, we can't have him going as long as he did without scoring. He just completely transforms the team and how we play. And he's also a winner. When he scores, 57 goals.
Wow.
When he scores, we've never lost. So Super Kev, what I'm wondering is, I don't want to be critical of Mikel Arteta, but why doesn't he just go tell Gabby Jesus to score in the first minute, and then we could just sit back and relax a little bit? Because
if he scores in the first minute, that might be 1-1, because we give goals away so early. But
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he scores. Then
listen. At the end of the day, listen, I agree with Dan to a point. I think we're going to have to lean on Jesus a bit more this season. Not happy that he had his injury obviously early, but if that means we could have him fully fit for the rest of the season, I'll take it, because you could see what he can do. He's such a great player, and he makes other players better. He makes other people better. He can drop a shoulder and change a game. And if he can keep scoring goals, he got double figures last season, and he was out for 3 months. So as Dan said, if he can get 5-10 goals in those 3 months, that in comparison, he's near on he'd probably be near on 18, 20 goals. That's what we need, Mike. Magic. We need somebody who's going to be top goal scorer as our main guy, 18, 20 goals if we're going to usurp Man City. And we're going to need him. We're going to need to lean on him to help us do it, because he's got that unknown factor that he can produce.
Yeah, Dan, that injury last year helped you win that bet with me. If it wasn't for that, I definitely would have won that bet. The over-under of goals for Gabby and Eddie combined. But
unfortunately, Mike, it looks like I'm going to win another bet this season already with Mr. Canton, because I'm already about 5-0 up. Unfortunately, I wanted him to beat me, but we had a bet that Kai Havertz to get more goals and assists than James Maddison, and I'm 4-0 up. So it's a problem for Tom at the moment. So come on, Kai. What's happening, man? What's happening? Yeah. Tom, are you regretting making that bet yet, bro?
Dan, the reason why I am is like, I think that I completely underestimated Kai's role in the team. Like, I thought he would be like getting into the box more. I thought he would be used as a centre forward more.
You thought he'd be taking penalties.
Basically, I'm going to be having words with Arteta, and he can reimburse me.
All is not lost, Tom.
It's not lost. No, Maddison's injury record is deplorable. So ACL.
No, don't do that, Tom.
Now we've got implicating.
I'm only joking, James. I'm only joking, man.
Yeah, that's
charity.
That's when your mic should have gone out. So speaking of Mikel Arteta, now we've all heard of Fergie time. Do we now have, what is it? Arteta time, Mickey time, Mikel time? Winning late, it's a culture shift. It's a belief that we can always get something out of the game. And, again, you don't want to have to leave it late. I think you have to add that standard disclaimer there that I would much prefer to be winning games 4-0 and have a boring last 20 minutes. But there is something about a young team gaining different types of experiences and knowing how to do it better. And rather than what we've always seen before, and what we did kind of see sneak in a little bit at the end of the Fulham game with switching off, I'd rather have a team that knows that the game is not over, to finish the game off strong, and especially to make that Emirates is a fortress type of feeling around the team, and we're just not going to give up until this game is won. Kevin, do you think that that's been something that is instilled in this team, or do you just think it's luck and small sample size?
It's no luck, Mike. If you keep doing something, you keep scoring late goals, you keep scoring and winning games at home, even though you've probably been a little bit loose at the back. That's a proven trait that you've got, and it's a positive trait. Let's call it Mikel time. Arsenal scoring late in games, beating your rivals, always a good sign to have in your back pocket, and if you need it. So again, this Arsenal side, they keep doing it, Mike, and long may continue, because if we're going to do anything this season, we're going to have to rely on some of those teams who maybe come to the Emirates and want to kill time. United were trying to kill time from the first half, if we're honest. So, yeah, if it can come back and bite them, then it's definitely a good trait for us.
Tom, if we have actual Tom here, we'll see. Okay, yeah, we look good. Any insight from Mikel or from any of the other players that you've spoken to after the game, or heard quotes from, about this kind of knack that we seem to have now? I mean, what is it? Bournemouth, United last year, United this year. There are a lot of examples in the past 18 months of getting the late winner, or in the case of Southampton last year in Chicago, when we were banging our head on the bar, a late equalizer from a really bad location or a really bad deficit. But, whatever it is, gaining a point or winning all three, this seems to start to be a trend a little bit. And what are you hearing or seeing within the club that you think is contributing to that?
I think it's just a simple attitude thing. I think it's the never say die kind of feel around this team, that they are not beaten in those moments. Yes, there's times where, we've gone to Man City and we've got, we've lost 3-4-1 or whatever it is. And, even Holding's late goal, and stuff like that. But even then, I see things in those games where Arsenal are still pushing, they're trying to get a goal because I know that goal difference might come into it towards the end of the season. I just think it's the attitude, it's the principles that Arteta has instilled in his team. I also think that he's getting a bit better with his subs compared to last season. I think the changes he's making really are making difference. You think about the Fulham game, how he turned things around with subs in that game. The subs that we made in this Manchester United game ultimately were pivotal as well. He's getting a lot from Fabio Vieira at the moment this season. And I think I really like Reece Nelson's cameo as well against Manchester United. Also, I think he's going to be something off the bench for us. It is just an attitude thing. It is all about the approach and the mental side of the game, which, if we're honest, previous Arsenal sides towards the back end of Arsene Wenger's era, I think under Unai Emery to some degree as well, there was just something missing that is there in this team, this current iteration of the Arsenal side, that Arteta just, the principles he holds, he just does not allow for those simple marginal deficits to exist, and mentality is massive, and that is a present in this team.
Yeah, 100%. And we've got 614 people in live chat. Come on, hit that like button, get them up. I really want to be able to present Sophie with a present, which is 400 likes. Is it too out of reach? I mean, there's 600 people in here. All you have to do, people, is go to your phone or your computer and just press the thumbs up thing. It's not like we're asking you the things that we're about to ask you in a few minutes. It's not like we're asking you to, to do jumping jacks or anything like that. Just hit the like button. If Vinny and Vespa could do it, so can you. So hit that, or your neck will get broke. Dan, the Arteta Time thing. I mean, we know how much you probably want to, to make up nicknames with Mikel Arteta and positivity and stuff like that. So let's, what's your version of this trend that we're starting to see here?
Super Mick time. Is that what it's called? Super Mick time. I don't know what it's called, man. But listen, whether you believe in this team, this manager, this club, where we're going, one thing you cannot deny: this team will give the raw till the end, and they've proved that so many times. And I think when we've seen it against Villa away, we've seen it at Bournemouth at home. We saw it last year, believe it or not, Man United at home, now twice at Manchester United at the Emirates. They'll give the raw to the end, and the resilience is there. And Ian Dowie brought the word bounce back ability into football, and it's one of my favourite words. And it's something that I've been impressed about with Mikel Arteta's side this year. I think it's the one thing that we have proved we can do. When we went 1-0 down, I think there was only 2 occasions in the first 2 seasons where we actually turned the game around and got a point or 3 points from it. And now we've seen a number of occasions that whether we go 1-0 down or not, we can actually have enough of belief and ability and the quality to turn it around. And I think that's what we've shown time and time again. And I think that we're now going to believe in that. Before, when you go to games, home or away, you go 1-0 down, it's deflated. You're like, it might be 1-1 here, or we might lose this 1-0. And when you start to see the evidence of that, that's why you start to feel that way. Now that we're starting to see that we can actually turn this around, we're going for it. And I think I've been probably most impressed with what Mikel's learned over the last, say, 12, 18 months. Because of that, I think that what we've seen now is that if we do go 1-0 down, we can turn games around, and it's not all doom and gloom. Now, having said that, Mike, I don't want to be going 1-0 down in 15 seconds. I don't want to be at the Emirates and having to come back to it, but it does prove that we got that part to our game. I would love nothing more than to see at 35 minutes we're 3-0 up and we're sitting back and I'm chilling with my dad watching the game, right? But it doesn't always work like that. And you know what? Sometimes if I was to have a 5-0 or a 2-1 last minute, I actually sometimes think maybe I would prefer the 2-1 last minute, depending on how you win the game, of course. There's the excitement that you add to that, right? But for me, I do feel now when we're going down in games that we have shown before time and time again that we ain't dead and buried and that we can come back to it. And I think Mikel Arteta deserves a lot of credit for what he's installed with that team for me and the belief that the young players have had to give their all right to the end, man. So that's what I'd say about it. And I just hate these international breaks already, man. I'm kind of sick and tired of international breaks, man. I just want to keep it going. It feels like we needed to win that because of the international break, and I get it. We want the momentum when we come back, not to be on the back of a loss. That was why that game for me was so important to win. But I kind of want to get to my next Arsenal game, if I'm honest. And the
one thing that people need to learn is stay in your seats until the end of the game. You were all at the game, but I'm sure you've seen.
What is it all about?
Right on the world broadcast and NBC, people walking down the street. And look, I mean, you should show other teams leaving early because it's really more of a problem there. But don't be on the street the 95th minute of a game. Come on.
Yeah, 100%. And I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And I saw it to start with, and I thought, are they Man United fans or are they Arsenal fans? Because if they're Arsenal fans, that's embarrassing. And it was Arsenal fans. I thought, you are kidding me. They're missing this. Why would you do that? And I understand you might want to get your train back a little bit early. I understand people are busy. They've got lives. But would you rather be late for work by 10 minutes and see this? Or would you rather get there in time and miss an unbelievable ending like that? And for me, I'll be missing work for 10 minutes, trust me, because there's no way I'm going to be missing that at the end. It was absolute scenes at the Emirates. And yeah, I would say it was probably better than last year's Eddie Nketiah goal, this one, because I think the way it ended, the Declan Rice, etc., it was an incredible.
No VAR on these goals either. Eddie's had to go to VAR, so it really kind of was almost
there
like,
we go.
Did it really count? But
yeah, there we go. Big up Fergus, by the way, because I met both his brothers, Man United fans, like great guys, but wow, they weren't happy, man. They weren't happy at the end of it. Let me tell you.
Beautiful pots.
It was beautiful, Kev. It was beautiful, man. I can't lie. And this is the thing. Man United fans are crying and they're trying to make up excuses. I don't care, man. Let them make up their excuses. We took the 3 points. They've got to take an L and they've got to sort their team out. We're just fine. Let's just get things sorted. Get back from the international break unscathed, touch wood, and then we go again, man. But Mike, listen, man, we're all hour in and we haven't even touched on your amazing Gunners v Cancer stuff, man. So I've got to sway it over your way, my friend, because this is important. We've got to talk about this. Come on.
Let's do this. And thank you, Sophie and Kev and Tom and Dan. What is your name, Dan? For letting me talk about this.
Called worse, mate.
Look, we've got 620 people that are all going to hear about this, and that kind of publicity is priceless. And you're all squaddies, and you've been massively supportive. But Gunners versus Cancer. I haven't been podcasting much lately. This is my practice to do a host because I'm going to do a year's worth of podcasts in a little over 1 day. This Sunday night at 6 p.m. UK time begins 27 straight hours of podcasting on the Gunners versus Cancer 3rd annual pot-a-thon. And, you might think that listening to me for 27 straight hours is not exactly, the way to spend a day. But fortunately, you won't have to deal with just me. We've curated, which is my favorite word right now. We've curated a list of guests that should keep everyone tuned in. We've got some amazing prizes. We've got a whole bunch of different things going on. So as always, we'll be raising money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We'll be giving away 25 amazing prizes, including Arsenal kits signed by Arsenal legends like Super Kev, like Alan Smith, like Lee Dixon. We'll have a shirt signed by the Arsenal men's first team. New customized Arsenal kits from this year, Emirates Stadium Legends tours, Ruth Beck art, and even something very special that has been donated by our beloved Sophie, which is this, a Mikel Arteta actual placard from Washington, D.C. from this summer, from the MLS All-Star Game press conference. And, as Sophie told me yesterday, she will attest to the fact that she saw some spittle dropping out of Mikel's mouth and landing on this thing. So if you are lucky enough to donate to Gunners versus Cancer, enter the raffle, and you win this, you could
I can't believe she took that.
You could potentially clone Mikel Arteta or have his child, because I believe his spit contains the materials to do that with. So this is going to be a special prize. Thank you, Sophie, for this. But it's just an idea of the fun that we have and the things that we're doing. There's a list of guests, And again, starting at 6 p.m., ending at 9 p.m. on Monday. This is the list of guests, and I realize that it's small, but you're going to see Gab Marcotti and Julian Lorenz, the Gab and Jules podcast, joining us. Clive Palmer, FK, Dave Seeger, Poorly Drawn Arsenal. We're going to have an Arsenal Who Am I game. Henry Winter, Ryan Rocastle, Yankee Gunner, Pedro, a.k.a. LeGrove, big good friend of the Highbury Squad. Not Another Arsenal podcast. We're going to have Steve and Max on Guns and Yellow Ribbons, Ferguson Trev. Peter Drury with Harry Simeo, and then Peter Drury, Harry Simeo, and Tom Canton for a few minutes. We're going to have Alan Smith, our own Super Kevin Campbell's joining us at the 10 a.m. hour on Monday. The 11 a.m. hour. We've got Gunner Blog and Arsblog joining us at noon on Monday. Charlie Watts, John Champion, Jim Proudfoot, Ruth Beck, and other artists like Fran and Del Llewellyn. We've got James B., Cecil G. Thomas, and Lee Judges from AFTV, Andrew Allen, Warren Barton, John Harks, Sophie Nicolaou, Demian Arriaga, Albert Umo, grumpy old Russell Hogg, and then a final hour with our grand prize and some amazing prizes. So and we're still adding guests in the next couple of days. So you're going to want to see this. You're going to want to enter, and you don't have to wait until Monday to donate. In fact, I recommend that you don't, because we're going to be doing the drawings with everybody that's entered and donated between now and then. So here's what you're going to want to do. To watch on Sunday, go to 27hourpod.com. I try to keep it easy. There's no youtube.com/ blah, blah, blah. It's 27hourpod.com. And to donate and win, donate now, and you'll have a better chance of winning all 25 raffles or any of 25 raffles. Go to goonersvcancer.com. And, there were a few people last year that did stay up for the whole 27 hours. Aditya from India saying he's going to do it. I'm sure he'll do it. I love his support. And so here are the links. And again, if you go there today or tomorrow, you can donate. Credit card, tax deductible if that applies to you. It goes directly to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and you will automatically be entered to win some amazing prizes. And the support that we get from the Arsenal community, podcasters, the team itself, the people who watch podcasts, people who we meet, is just unquestionable. And it's the reason that we've been able to raise over $100,000 since we started in 2017 for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And I just can't say thank you enough to everybody who's helped us get there. And of course, co-hosts alongside with me, helping me when I get tired and helping with all the podcasting, will be my guys from the Gooners podcast, Andy, Aston, Mike, Jared, Owen, and we'll see plenty and hopefully a lot of Sophie as well, because she's been a really, really valuable partner on this. So that's it. That's the Gooners pod and Gooners versus Cancer 27-hour pot-a-thon. Any questions? Will I be wearing a diaper this year? Anything like that about how the thing works? The answer is no, I will not be wearing a diaper. Will you
microwave any water again, Mike?
I no longer need to, because I bought a kettle because of all the abuse that I took 4 years ago.
Love that, man. Love that. I'm going to miss that, boiling the water in the microwave, man. I can't lie. And listen, Mike, I just want to say,
that was the best thing you ever did for me, Kevin. You've done a lot of very nice things for me, but naming me Magic Mike immediately got rid of the microwave Mike moniker that I couldn't.
I say we bring it back, right? So we bring it back. It has to be brought back.
Microwave Mike sounds like what must have happened to get me to look like this. Like I just shriveled up all of a sudden because I was put in the microwave.
We've been dehydrating him. That's what we've been doing, shriveling him up.
Listen, make sure, people, that you get over and support what's happening. Obviously, I'm gutted that I can't be there. I'm going to be in sunny Valencia Friday to Monday, so I'm not going to be about. I'm missing it. But I would be there if I could. And make sure you do go over and support what Mike's doing, because it's incredible what's happening and what has been happening for the last few years, man. I always do support it when I can. So it's kind of gutting that the timing is wrong for me. But make sure you head over there, guys, honestly.
Thanks. And if you're in Valencia, my heart goes out to you. Thoughts and prayers about not having any internet access, because clearly that's the case in Valencia. But no, enjoy your time. There's always next year. We're doing a little bit later than we normally do. Normally it's the week prior to the opening kickoff game, and we do our predictions and stuff. But I was in London at that particular time doing other appearances with Tom, so we weren't able to do it. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time, and I'm just hoping I can get some sleep the night before, because it's not going to be easy.
You'd be fine,
So,
Magic. Come on.
This is where we end up. Well, each new guest that comes in, it reinvigorates me because it's like, it's
That's
one
right.
after the other. So I want to give a big thank you to our guest today, Dan. Tell everyone where they can find you, including your next show, which I believe begins in less than 3 hours.
Yeah, absolutely, it does. Big up, everyone. Make sure you do us a favor and like this, and subscribe before you do anything else. If you do want to come and follow myself, it's at Dan Arsenal 87, or come over to Football's 12th Man podcast, because tonight we've got a show. If you want to come and see Spurs fans getting cocky and me shooting them down, Chelsea fans still trying to say they're great after spending £1 billion and still looking rubbish, then please come over and join myself and this guy up here, because he's going to be coming on my show tonight at 10 p.m. So make sure you come and follow him, man. And we're literally about, I think it's 100 and something now from 12K. So if you guys, squaddies, can come and support me, that would be amazing. Thank you so much, guys. And thank you, Mike and Sophie and Kevin, Tom, for having me on.
Oh, we've got the player ratings. I think the host ratings that just came up, and I believe I got an 8.9. So I'll take that. Tom,
I'm not happy.
Can't believe you outpointed KC, although it is.
I don't have anything that's
Five is
working.
too.
Big up, Newman.
Five is
Big
too
up, Newman,
much.
for giving me a 9.
The 5 is too much. Newman,
getting an
what are
8
you
point.
doing?
Tom getting an 8.7 despite the microphone, despite the internet that's kind of like Arsenal getting 10 points while not playing their best.
I did a
That's right.
diagnostic check, and I've discovered that it's the USB ports. I finally got my answer while we were live. That's why I dropped out for a second. I was so annoyed. I'm like, right, I'm doing it now. I'm checking what this problem is.
And the world was waiting for those diagnostics, trust me. So let the two people who don't already have them know where they can find your great channel.
You can find it at the Gooner Talk, which of course is live every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. We'll be doing it's also sometimes in the evenings. We've got the Eat, Sleep, Arsenal Repeat podcast tomorrow, which usually would, of course, be with Sophie. Sophie's not with us tomorrow night because she's a very busy girl. But I
can talk about fitness. I could take
we'll talk about fitness, a little bit about fitness and mental health, which is always good. But in her place, once again, same as last week, it's going to be MK from Arsenal LA. So she's going to be joining us. Owen is back, I'm told, which, you never know if Owen's going to be back, but apparently he's back. And of course, Dr. Raj at 3CB Performance will be with us tomorrow as well. We're getting more updates on potentially Thomas Partey's injury status. But yeah, that's everything. Oh, and football.london, of course, do check out the written work over there, as always.
Beautiful, Tom, and thank you to
Sophie,
Sophie
by the way, for having me.
Yep. And speaking of having you, I was allowed to have you tonight by Sophie for trusting me. Thank you.
Stop saying those words in that order. It's just
I think I've just said a lot of words out of order, but thank you to Sophie for trusting me to step into her tiny little shoes. And although huge shoes for this podcast, you would have no idea what she does for this podcast. I have a bit of an idea because I used to host podcasts more frequently, but the preparation and the things that she does, the love and adoration that she shows through her preparation for you guys, the squaddies, is unbelievable. And every success that she has is deserved, and every bit of loyalty that you guys show her is deserved. And I absolutely love it. And I love any time I'm allowed to be part of it. So thank you, Sophie, so much. You'll see Sophie back very soon. Thanks to all the squaddies who tuned in. Over 600 or 700 of you at the height. Hit that like button on your way out, please. And I appreciate you not tuning out as soon as you saw that I was guest hosting tonight. But certainly, last but not least, thank you to the one and only Super Kevin Campbell. And as always, it is yours to close us out.
Well, squaddies, love to Dan Potsy. Check him out on the 12th Man podcast later on. Tom Canton. Check him out in the morning, afternoon, and evening. Check him out everywhere. Magic Mike, let's support him for the 27-hour pod. That'll be great. Always for a good cause. Sophie, hostess with the mostest in the background, still pushing all the buttons like Oz. Incredible work. And to you, squaddies, tell people you love them and look after yourself, and we see you next time. At ease, squaddies. At ease.
Mind the gap between the train and the platform. Please stand clear of the discussion doors. The next stop is Highbury Squad.